This conference will now be recorded.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes,
A very good morning.
Morning.
Thank you for joining the demo session, guys. Just a couple of things before we get started. You guys can use the chat window for any acknowledgement, right? Just in the interest of recording, okay? And you have any questions, you can post it in the chat window. And let's try to make this session as interactive as possible, guys. Okay, so let's get started. Let me introduce myself. My name is Suresh. I have been working as an IT engineer from past 9.5 years and working on Python from past 5 years. So again, you might be knowing, right? Python is not just a programming language, but it is used across different technologies. So I use Python mainly into data engineering, guys. So where we develop PySpark applications and then ML applications, machine learning applications, and develop APIs. There are multiple ways how I use Python. Okay. So today's session is all about giving an introduction about Python, and by the end of this session, you can expect what you are going to learn in the next couple of months of this course. And at the end of the session, I'll be taking a Q&A. But before I start the session, just wanted to know a couple of things. So, I mean, since you are showing interest to learn Python, so what is your objective towards this session, guys? You can use chat window. So, for example, if you want to be an engineer, or maybe you want to become a data scientist, or maybe you want to get into full stack development, or maybe you are a fresher and then looking for a entry level job. So, just wanted to know your objective in the chat window. I don't see any messages yet. You can ping it in the chat window, either to everyone or you can ping it to me in private as well. Learn Python and get internship, learn full stack with Python. Okay. Others, interactive programming, internship. Okay. Working as Oracle apps developers who trying to learn Python. Maybe it helps in automation. Okay. Understand computer language better. For okay. Enhance skills and looking to land a job. Okay. Data structures algorithms. Okay. Full stack Python for entry level jobs. Okay. Perfect. So I think we have got a good number of responses. There is a reason for asking this question, guys, because by the end of this session you should be in a position to make a judgment whether this course is suitable to you or not, because I always believe in setting up the right expectations. Okay, so that at the end of the course none of us would be disappointed, right? So let's get started and try to be interactive, guys. We'll interact as much as we can for next 1 hour. Okay. So before we jump on to Python, let's try to understand what exactly is a programming language. Any idea what exactly is a programming language or a program? Yes, no, maybe.
It is just like a sentence is be given to the computer.
Sorry, Vaishnavi, please.
It is like a sentence be given.
Hmm.
like a statement or anything, so that the computer can understand.
Yeah. Any other definitions, guys? I mean, whenever you are answering right, I am not expecting it to be technically correct. Okay. But I just wanted to know your understanding, and the intention of it is to make the session interactive, guys, not to test your knowledge or anything. Okay. So you can tell me whatever you know. Like I said, you can use the chat window as well. You can ping me in private so that I won't be feeling I'm talking to a screen. Okay. So like one of our participants have mentioned, yeah, programming language is one way to interact with your computer, guys. So you all might be knowing, right? Your computer is not, self-intelligent. Guys, just give me a second. Just a second. Yeah. So like we were discussing, computer is not self-intelligent, guys. It will not be able to do any task by itself. So, for example, you might want to open a file and then write some text on it and then save that file, right? So it's you who is going to give those instructions, but your computer will not be able to do it by itself. Or maybe you want to use a calculator and then do some calculations. Your computer will not be able to do it by itself, right? So you are the one who is giving that intelligence to your computer. It is capable of executing your instructions, but not capable of doing its own tasks. That's when the programming languages would come into picture, right? So talking about a program, right? The technical definition of a program is nothing but a set of instructions which you give to your computer to get the task done. As simple as that. Task can be anything, right? So you might ask me, boss, I'm creating a file, I'm writing some text into it, and then I'm saving it without coding, right? So basically, you're not doing the coding, but whenever you are doing these tasks, some code is being executed in the backend. Okay, so for example, you save a file. So to save a file, some set of instructions are being executed in the back. Say for example, you open a calculator. To open the calculator, some set of code or some set of instructions is being executed in the backend. Okay, it's just that the code is abstracted from you using a GUI, graphical user interface, as simple as that. But any simple task you do in your computer is nothing but a program, guys. A program which might not be visible to you, but it is getting executed in the backend, right? So now talking about Python, Python is one such programming language. We do have a lot of other programming languages, right? So like we have discussed, program is nothing but a set of instructions given to a computer to get the task done. And talking about programming language would let you give those instructions, right, in different languages. And Python is one such language. We do have Java, we have C, we have C++, Scala, Golang, whatnot. There are a lot of programming languages. Okay, so Python is one such programming language, right? So why Python? You have your answers. So I started this session with that question, why are you looking for a Python course, or what is your objective towards learning this Python, right? So most of the answers to get into full stack, or to enhance your knowledge, or to get into a different stream, especially the people who are working in data areas, right? Earlier the requirement was only SQL, but now SQL and Python have become mandatory to learn anything on data related technologies. It could be a data engineering, or it could be data scientist, or it could be anything, guys. As simple as that. You'll get to understand like how Python is going to help you in developing those applications towards the end of this course, not towards the end of this session. But yes, you'll get a fair bit of idea by the end of this course, right? So why Python? You have been hearing this, right? Python is everywhere. People are going crazy about Python. You go and ask anyone. Most of the people are suggesting you to learn Python if you are a fresher. People are suggesting you to learn if you want to upgrade yourself and get into some good technologies. So, why Python? Any
Compared
idea?
to other languages, Python is very easy to write code. So in other languages, you need to write around 6 to 7 lines of code, whereas in Python, you can finish it in 3 lines, which is very easy and compatible.
Yep, fair enough. Any other reasons, guys? Any other reasons you could think of? Okay. So Python has its own set of advantages, guys, which we will be discussing. Okay. So, like one of our participants have mentioned, yes, it is easy to learn, and then it doesn't have too many nuances, programming nuances. It doesn't have too many syntaxes to remember. So it's a pretty simple and plain language, right? And the features of Python would itself talk a lot about the simplicity which Python brings onto your plate. Okay. So, and secondly, one is the features I'm referring to. Okay. And the second one is applications. So when we talk about Python applications, right, you can use Python anywhere right now. Especially when you say, for example, you want to become a data engineer, Python is definitely needed because to develop PySpark applications, or a lot of automations are happening using Python in data engineering space, right? And then let's say you want to learn machine learning and then want to become a data scientist. Again, without Python, you'll not be able to do anything there, right? Say, for example, you want to run a classification algorithm, or maybe you want to run a regression algorithm, or maybe a deep learning algorithm. At the end of the day, you will have to write Python code to do that. Okay, there are two directions, right? One is knowing that algorithm, learning that algorithm, and second thing is implementing it. Okay, so in the first part, where the first part is all about your knowledge on data science, and second part is all about how you implement it using Python. I mean, there are other programming language which supports the same, but Python being predominant in data science space because it has huge libraries. Like one of our participants was mentioning earlier, you don't really need to write or implement any new algorithm, but you have a huge variety of libraries that are already available. All you just need to do is import them and use them. Okay, which is making your life easy, as simple as that, right? Maybe you want to get into full stack. Yes, Python offers rich set of libraries to get your full stack development done, right? So Python is like everywhere, guys. I mean, any new tool that is coming up, or any new technology that is coming up, they are making sure that it is compatible, or those frameworks can be implemented using Python, because that defines their success as well. And especially for the freshers, right, they always want to start with Python because it's not complex as other programming languages like Java or whatever it is. But it has huge libraries, huge number of topics, right? It supports a lot of functionalities, but still it is easier to learn compared to the other programming languages. Okay. Now let's talk about features. But before we go there, Python version which we are going to learn is Python 3. Okay. So we will talk about the differences between Python 2 and Python 3. Python 2, which is the previous version, and then Python 3, which is the current version. Probably once we deep dive into our sessions, right? And the guy who invented Python is Guido van Rossum. Okay, so he is the guy who have implemented Python, guys. Sorry, who have invented Python. Okay, and then talking about features, we'll look into few features. Let me walk you through few features. Python is a typed language. Any idea what is a typed language? Any idea? Okay, before we go
Like a
there,
layman language.
sorry.
Like a layman language, just we can write normally, kind of.
Okay, so before we jump on to the typed language or the definition of typed language, so just want to understand how many of you are completely new to programming, guys? When I say completely new to programming, like this is the first time you are learning a programming language. I'm totally okay, even though you have learned few years back and then forgot about it, that is still fine. But how many of you are completely new? Okay, I see one hand raised. Okay, another one, basic understanding of core Java. Okay, I mean, any programming language is fine. Cool. I have got few responses. Okay, so let's try to understand what exactly is a typed language, guys, right? So before we go there, let's try to understand how the program gets executed in your computer, right? So two main components that would come into picture are CPUs, storage, and RAM. Okay. So when I talk about CPU, right, I'm referring to cores in your CPU. This is where your program gets executed. This is where your program gets executed, right? So you must be hearing this term core. So quad core, octa core, right? So what exactly meant by that? So it defines the parallelism, or it defines how many tasks can run in your operating system. Okay, let's say you are using an octa-core processor, which means you can run 8 processes simultaneously in your system. As simple as that. You might ask me, boss, I'm using a octa-core processor, but I have at least 20-30 applications open and I'm able to work on all the applications simultaneously. Again, you know, uh, scheduling algorithms will come into picture, guys. We call it as resource management. Okay, so when I talk about resources, resources are primarily your CPU cycles, and second one is RAM. Okay, so RAM is where the data gets stored temporarily when your program is getting executed, and CPU cores is the place where your program gets executed. As simple as that. Okay, so there are multiple scheduling algorithms like round robin algorithm, shortest job first algorithm, first in, first out. There are a lot of algorithms which your operating system would adopt to give cycles to each of these tasks that are running, whatever the 20 tasks or 30 tasks which you are referring to. Okay, so whenever you see a lag in your system, everybody knows that if you close the applications, your system would become faster, right? This is what happens. You close some tasks or you close some applications, your memory gets freed up, and then whatever the applications that are running will get more CPU cycles, so that you won't see that lag, right? And then storage. When I talk about storage, I'm referring to hard disk. Sorry, storage, I'm referring to hard disk. Okay, so whatever that is stored in hard disk is what I'm referring to storage, and then RAM is memory. So whenever I use a word memory, I'm referring to RAM. So these are the three components which work together, guys. Okay, for any application to run or any code to run, right? Now, now there is a concept called variable in a programming language. Any idea what exactly is a variable?
Where we used to store some value.
Yep. Okay. So for example, you want to execute a simple instruction, int a is equals to 10. Okay. So what happens here is we are actually creating a variable, and the name of that variable is a, and we are storing a value 10 into that variable. Okay, now this particular instruction will be executed in your CPU core, and then the value 10 is stored in some memory location of your RAM, some memory location inside your RAM. Okay, now what is that int? What is that int?
Integer.
Integer? Yes. So what is that? We do have a lot of such things, right? Int, float, string, which we will discuss. But any idea, guys, what is that int?
Data types.
Yes, int is a data type. Okay. So why do we need that integer or the data type? Okay. So a data type predominantly does two jobs here. First job, it will tell your RAM what is the type of value you are storing in that variable. And the second thing, it will tell your RAM how much space that needs to be allocated to store this particular value. Okay. So this is the significance of a data type, right? So what happens here is, one moment, guys. Yeah. Sorry for the interruptions. I'm using Mac for the first time. Okay. I mean to say using Mac for the first time for GoToMeeting. So I'm just trying to find few options. Yeah. You're talking about data type. Data type would tell your system how much space that needs to be allocated in your RAM to store that variable, and what is the type of value you are storing or data you are storing. Okay. So in any other programming language, you will have to explicitly mention the data type when you declare a variable, which you don't need to do in Python. So that is the meaning of typed language, guys. Okay. So Python is pretty simple. Like, no, A is equals to 10, and then B is equals to 20, and C is equals to A plus B will do. Okay. If it is any other programming language, you will have to specify what is the data type of A, what is the data type of B, and then what is the data type of C. Okay, which would store the value of A plus B, right? So this is the exact meaning of typed programming language or a typed language, right? So you don't really need to specify anything when it comes to Python. This is one of the uh, prominent feature in Python. Okay, are we good so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
And second one, Python is an interpreted programming language. So any idea, guys, what exactly is an interpreted programming language is?
Like it executes instructions directly without any compilation of programming.
Yes. Okay. Now let me introduce couple more terminologies here. One is compilation, and second one is execution. Okay. So when we talk about executing any instructions, right, these two steps would come in picture, guys. Okay. So compiler would act as a translator. Okay. Say for example, you know, Sudarshan knows only Telugu, and then I know only Hindi. Okay, so for me to communicate with Sudarshan, definitely not possible directly, right? Your computer can understand only zeros and ones. It cannot understand what is int. It cannot understand what is function. It cannot understand, what is a data type, whatever, right? Your computer can understand only zeros and ones, right? So for us to communicate with your computer in zeros and ones is next to impossible. Okay, so that is when this compiler will come into picture. Okay, so compiler is just like translator, guys. Okay, so what this
Converts
compiler
the
will
source
do?
code into machine code.
Yes, it compiles the source code into machine code. Okay, source code is nothing but the program which you are writing, to be in a layman terminology. Okay, whatever the Python code you write, right? That is what we refer to as source code. And then machine code is nothing but the code which is understandable by your machine. Okay, so again, here comes couple more terminologies. High level programming language versus low level programming language. Okay, so we will deep dive into these terminologies. Don't worry too much about it, but just try to understand at a high level for now. Okay, so high level programming language is nothing but the human readable programming languages, be it Python, be it Java, be it Scala. Okay, all these programming languages would come under high level programming languages, right? So, to put it in a simple terminology, the code you write is nothing but high-level programming language, and then low-level programming language is nothing but the code which is understandable by your machine or your computer. Okay, so that is what is referred to as machine code. So this compiler is the component which would convert the source code or the code you are writing to the machine understandable format. Okay, now you might ask me, boss, do we have one compiler for all the programming languages? Definitely not. Every programming language will have its own compiler, guys. Okay, so Python will have its own compiler, and then uh, Java will have its own compiler, which we refer to as Java C, and then C will have its own compiler. So every programming language will have its own compiler, which would convert this into machine code, which would convert your code into machine code, and then comes the execution. Okay, once the code written by you is converted to machine code, that machine code is executed in CPU cores. Okay, so whatever the resources that are available, it would be executed in those cores, as simple as that. Okay, and talking about an interpreted programming language, right? I mean, forget about interpreted language. Before we go there, this is the generic scenario of how a program works. Okay, so other programming languages, these two steps happen in two different phases: compilation first and then execution next. Talking about Python, right? These two can happen simultaneously, which is taken care by the interpreter. There is another component called interpreter. Okay, now you might ask me, boss, what advantage does it give? Okay, so talking about Java, whenever you want to execute your code, you'll have to write the entire code and then execute it in one go. I repeat, you'll have to write entire code and execute it in one go. It's different when it comes to Python, guys. So in Python, you write one line of code and see the output. You write the second line of code, see the output. Write the third line of code, see the output. That's the kind of advantage what you get. Okay. So let me show you how it works. So I'm gonna use this collaboratory environment for our training, not for the entire training, but first few topics I'm gonna use collaboratory environment. I'll tell you how to set up this environment and how you can use it. Okay. So first I'll have to connect to the runtime, which I'm doing it. Okay. Let's say I'm creating a variable a is equals to 10. Okay. And then let's say I'm creating another variable b is equals to 20. Okay, I'm adding another cell, and here I'm gonna do c is equals to a plus b, a simple code. Okay, and then maybe I want to see the value of c, what c is holding. C should give me 30. Maybe I want to see what value is being held by variable a. This is how I can see. And then maybe I want to see the value b, 20. There you go. So this is the beauty of Python, guys. Okay, so you write one line of code and you can check the output what you are getting. Okay, so this is the beauty of the interpreted programming language, which you won't get in any other programming languages. I mean, there are few other interpreted languages too, but when it comes to Java, C, C++, you won't have this luxury. Okay, so this makes your debugging easy. Whenever your code is not working as expected, you can easily go back and then see what's happening. Okay, so this is another standout feature for me when it comes to Python, guys. Okay, are we good so far?
Yes.
Can everyone acknowledge, please? Are we good so far? You can use your
Yeah.
chat window.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so and next comes applications. There are a lot of features, guys. I'm not going into all the features now. Okay, in the interest of time, but I wanted to highlight few features. Second one is applications of Python, which we have already discussed. Python is everywhere. You can use Python anywhere, guys. Like I picked, I don't know how many of you know this, but today's industry is predominantly relying on data. Okay, talking about data, there are multiple roles. It could be a data analyst, it could be a data engineer, it could be a data scientist. Python is much needed. And then Python have modules which would help you to develop uh, web applications. Python have modules which would help you to develop desktop applications. So Kinter is the module which I'm referring to. Okay, so there are a lot of modules that are available which would support you to develop applications in various fields. Okay, and then Python is object oriented. Okay, so I don't want to get into the definition of object-oriented programming language right away because it takes some time, but I just want to highlight it. So it follows OOPS paradigm, so object-oriented programming language. Okay, so just like Java or any other programming languages, or any other object-oriented programming languages. Okay, now talking about course, right, what I'm going to cover, because we have talked about a lot of applications. So the reason for naming this course as a comprehensive Python is same. Okay. So in this course, we will be talking about a lot of things. Okay. So we'll start with basic Python, which is our first module, where you'll get to learn the basic concepts of any programming language. Like you'll get to understand what a compiler is, what an how execution is done, what is interpreter, differences between compiler and executor, right? And then you'll get to understand what a variable is, data type is, and then we'll move on to conditions. When I talk about condition structures, if else, nested if else, and then loops, control structures, loops. In Python, we only have two loops, for loop and while loop, right? So do while loop is not supported in Python, but there is a workaround using which you can implement its functionality. Okay, we'll get to learn about control structures. Then we will move on to file operations. We will talk about how to handle CSV files, JSON files, file operations basically. Okay, then we'll move on to collections, which is most important topic in any programming language, where we'll be talking about list, we'll be talking about tuple, we'll talk about dict, right? So whatever the collections that are available, we'll talk about all those collections and different variants of it. Then we'll move on to OOPS concepts, object oriented programming structures, where we will be discussing what exactly a class is, what exactly an object is, what exactly are the types of methods we have, like static method, class method, instance method, right? And we'll talk about inheritance, different types of inheritance we have, and how we can reuse our code, so on and so forth. Then we have some miscellaneous topics, so which would help you for writing a better code, guys. So in this miscellaneous topics, right, we'll talk about exception handling, we'll talk about regular expressions, we'll talk about JDBC connections, like how you can connect with your database using Python code and then query your data. Okay, so I know most of you are completely new to IT, and few of you are from college. Okay, so I'm gonna explain what exactly an RDBMS is, how to install it, different operations you do there, and I'm gonna show you how you can do the same operations using Python code. So you don't really need to worry about it. Okay, and then we'll move on to Python for data science. Python for data science. This is where I'll be covering few modules that are being used for data science. So here I'm gonna cover you NumPy. Okay, so don't expect me to teach these topics in depth, especially Python for data science, but you will get a fair bit of idea on how Python would be used in machine learning area, guys. So I'm gonna cover pandas, and then I'm gonna cover matplotlib and Seaborn modules. Okay, so this is at a high level. Basically, this particular module, right, will be spending a week's time, which is 5 hours time, okay, to understand what these modules are and how they can be leveraged. Say, for example, talking about NumPy, it's a numerical Python. I'll be showing you few important numerical methods or numerical functions that are available in that module. And then talking about pandas, I'm going to show you how we can create a data frame from different sources or different ways to create a data frame. And then we'll do some kind of data exploration by taking a Titanic dataset as an example. And then third one is Matplotlib and Seaborn. I'm going to show you how you can create those beautiful diagrams. Okay. And then we'll move on to Python for data science. We'll move on to Django and Flask. Okay. So here also, please don't expect me to uh, deep dive into these topics, because you know Python is an ocean, guys, which cannot be taught in just 2 months, right? But what are the first four modules you are seeing, basic Python, collections, object-oriented programming structures, and all the miscellaneous topics will be dealt in depth. Okay, so you don't need to go through any other trainings, or you don't need to go through any other videos for those topics. I'll be giving you the comprehensive view of how you can use them. But talking about Python for data science and Django and Flask, right? You will get a fair amount of idea on how Python can be leveraged for developing a data science application or a web application. As simple as that. Okay. And the IDEs I'm gonna use. So we will start with Colab environment, okay, which I have previously shown you to explain what exactly an interpreted programming language is. That is one environment which we will be using for first two modules, and then I'm gonna show you how to use VS Code, Visual Studio Code, and PyCharm as well. Okay, to develop Python applications where I'll be covering modules, how to develop a module, how to use a module, and then how to write a class, object, so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to use the same IDE for developing Django and Flask applications as well. Okay, and talking about practice exercises, right? We will be dealing with lot of programs, guys. This is a programming language. I don't believe in theory, so you will get comfortable only when you make your hands dirty, right? So I will be giving you a lot of examples during the session, and I'll also give you uh, problem statements for assignments, okay, and for your practice. So also in between, over the weekends, this will not happen during the weekdays, guys, but we will spend few weekends, not all the weekends, to do some kind of interesting activities like workshops, okay, and then hackathons, etc. Okay, so I can give you a simple example of a workshop. So basically, whenever we cover good number of topics and where we can build a end-to-end use case, right, we will kind of do a workshop where you will be starting with the requirement gathering on how you gather your requirement, and then how you design the solution, and then how you actually implement it. So for example, here we create an application for call center payment automation. Call center payment automation. So this particular use case comes after object-oriented programming structures. Okay, so we'll get to know what exactly are the requirements given by the client and how we can convert those requirements into the code. And then talking about hackathons, I predominantly use the medium level questions from HackerRank and Lead Code. I don't know how many of you know these platforms, but these are competitive platforms where you can do competitive coding. Okay, so I'm not gonna deal with the advanced level of questions which need data structure and algorithms knowledge, but yeah, medium level questions, yes, definitely we can deal with those questions, guys. Okay. Now you might ask me, boss, will you be covering data structures and algorithms as well as a part of this course? My answer will be no. Okay, so because that is another advanced topic which need at least a couple of months just to teach data structures and algorithms. Okay, so what do I get from this course? You will get a solid foundation using which you can expand your learning into different areas. It could be data engineering. So for example, you want to get into data engineering. Right after this course, you can comfortably learn what a PySpark framework is, and other tools which use Python, like Airflow or Dataflow or whatever it is. Okay. Similarly, you want to become a machine learning engineer, ML engineer, or maybe a data scientist, you will be able to comfortably learn data science course. Same is the case for full stack aspirants as well. Okay, and then you want to learn data structures and algorithms. Yes, you can go ahead and learn that as well with the knowledge you have gained from this course. So we have tried our best to put everything together to cover the maximum in 2 months. Okay. and duration of this course is 40 to 45 hours, guys. Okay, so which is close to 2 months, because we'll have sessions only during weekdays, only on weekdays, 1 hour per day, and the timings and other things will let you know. Okay, you'll get them from Career IT point of contact. Okay, but yes, 40 to 45 hours is what I need to complete this course. Again, 40 hours is all it needs, but those additional 5 hours, we never know what questions you might come up with during the session. So I always have that buffer. I cannot leave the session without clarifying your doubts. Okay, so a minimum is 40 hours for sure, and a maximum of 45 hours. This is what I need to complete this course. And this doesn't include workshops or hackathons, guys, because they are bound to happen on weekends. But I would encourage every one of you to join those sessions and make most of it. Okay, so I will let you know at least a week or 2 weeks before, so that you can plan to attend those sessions. Okay. uh, I think I have covered pretty much what I wanted to cover. Now uh, the floor is open for your Q&A. Definitely, yes, Karima. I have seen people who have done that before. So, since you have worked on data stage, you must be having some good knowledge on data side of the things, right? So, definitely this will be helpful. And I'm assuming you know SQL. Correct me if I'm wrong. Those administrative aspects I might not be able to let you know, guys, especially fee timings and other things. Okay, but you can get in touch with your point of contact from Career IT. They'll let you know about those details. Anything related to course, please feel free. And also one more thing which I wanted to highlight about this course is, I know people from various experience ranges are going to join the sessions. So I will be starting any topic right from the basics, guys. I don't expect you to have any prerequisite knowledge for sure, and I'm gonna teach it right from the basics. So people who are already well versed with some other programming languages have to be patient for a while till I
I'm,
complete those
I'm,
basics.
I'm a product
But
specialist in
I'll
them.
be
I'm not child seeker.
sorry. Is somebody asking something? Okay. So people who are already well versed with programming any other programming language might have to be little patient, guys, during the initial days of this session. Okay, because I have to take this course, keeping everyone in the mind. Okay, but like I said, you will not end up doing only the basic stuff. Any other questions? I'll be waiting for 5 more minutes to address your questions. If there are no more questions, I'll be wrapping up this session.
I was looking through the course content, uh, the Google
Mhm.
Drive course content, and I was seeing that you mentioned that we will be working with MySQL databases.
Mhm.
So, is there a difference between MySQL and SQL?
So basically, MySQL is a tool, Avinash. So it's an RDBMS tool. SQL is a programming language. So we do have a lot of RDBMS tools, right? Like SQL Server, MySQL, Oracle, DB2, IBM's DB2. There are a lot of RDBMS tools. In all these tools, you can use SQL language. SQL is nothing but a query language where
Uh,
you can query the data that is stored in RDBMS.
okay, and then we would just be using this and connecting it with Python.
Yes. So basically, we are using MySQL because it's an open source tool.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Yeah.
So I'm gonna show you how to install it and then how to create tables, how to store your data, and then I'm gonna show you how you can do the same operations using Python code.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? Any other questions? Okay.
No, actually no. No.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes.
And Career IT point of contact will get back to you with the other details. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.